There exists within each of us a profound capacity for happiness that remains largely untapped. Not because we lack intelligence or resources, but because we have been searching in the wrong direction. We chase accumulation when we should be practicing release. We grasp for permanence when wisdom invites us to embrace change. We seek happiness in distant futures when peace waits patiently in this present moment. Buddhist philosophy, refined through centuries of contemplative practice, reveals a truth that modern science is only now beginning to confirm. True fulfillment does not arise from possessing more, but from understanding the art of letting go. This understanding is not passive resignation or defeat. Rather, it represents an awakening to the fundamental nature of reality itself, a shift from resisting life to flowing with it, from controlling to allowing, from clutching to opening. What follows is an exploration of 4 essential pillars that support a genuinely fulfilling life. Each pillar represents both ancient wisdom and contemporary discovery. Together, they form a foundation strong enough to weather life's inevitable storms, while remaining flexible enough to dance with its changing seasons. These are not abstract philosophies meant for monasteries alone, but practical insights that can transform your daily experience, beginning with your very next breath. The first pillar addresses the wandering nature of our attention. The second examines the hidden trap of endless wanting. The third reveals the invisible architecture of human connection. And the fourth invites us to embrace the flowing river of impermanence rather than building dams against it. Each pillar supports the others. Each insight illuminates the rest. And together, they point toward a life characterized not by the absence of challenges, but by the presence of profound peace. Our journey begins exactly where you are right now, in this moment, with the first pillar that makes all others possible. The wild horse of the mind never stops running. Even now, as you listen to these words, your attention may drift to yesterday's conversation or tomorrow's obligations. This restless movement from past to future, from worry to plan, from memory to anticipation, characterizes the untrained mind. Buddhist tradition compares this mental state to a monkey swinging chaotically from branch to branch, never settling, always grasping. Modern neuroscience offers a parallel image through the concept of the default mode network, those neural pathways that activate when our attention wanders from the present moment into rumination and mind-wandering. The art of serenity begins with recognizing this fundamental truth about consciousness. Your mind, left to its own devices, prefers anywhere but here, anywhere but now. This tendency is not a personal failing, but a feature of human consciousness, shaped by evolutionary pressures that rewarded anticipation of future threats and analysis of past mistakes. For our ancestors, the ability to mentally time travel provided survival advantages. But in our modern context, this same capacity often generates unnecessary suffering. The secret lies not in stopping this mental movement, which would be like commanding the wind to cease, but in developing what Buddhist practitioners call mindfulness. This quality of awareness allows you to observe the wandering nature of mind without being swept away by it. Think of yourself as standing on the bank of a river, watching thoughts float by like leaves on the current. You see them, you acknowledge them, but you need not jump into the water and follow them downstream. Scientific research has provided remarkable validation for what contemplatives have known for millennia. Studies examining the brains of experienced meditators reveal consistent patterns of change. The amygdala, that ancient alarm system buried deep in the brain's emotional centers, shows measurably reduced reactivity after regular meditation practice. Brain imaging reveals this structure actually shrinks with consistent mindfulness training. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, decision-making, and emotional regulation, demonstrates increased thickness and enhanced activity. This is not metaphorical transformation but literal neuroplasticity. Your brain physically reorganizes itself in response to meditation practice. The functional connectivity between the amygdala and the rest of the brain weakens, meaning that emotional triggers lose some of their automatic power over your thoughts and actions. Simultaneously, connections between brain regions associated with attention and concentration grow stronger. The more you practice present moment awareness, the more your neural architecture reflects that practice. Even more striking are the findings related to stress hormones. Research comparing Buddhist monks with control groups has consistently demonstrated that experienced meditators maintain significantly lower levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, even when facing high-pressure situations. One study examining practitioners of Buddhist meditation found that after a meditation session, serum cortisol levels decreased substantially, while measures of psychological well-being improved. Another investigation following meditators through a 3-month intensive retreat discovered a direct correlation between enhanced mindfulness and reduced cortisol. Those participants who reported the greatest increase in present moment awareness showed the largest decreases in their baseline stress hormone levels. The implications extend beyond mere stress reduction. Elevated cortisol contributes to numerous health problems, from impaired immune function to cardiovascular disease. When you train your attention to rest more consistently in the present moment, you are not simply cultivating a pleasant mental state. You are initiating a cascade of biological changes that protect your health and extend your potential lifespan. The peace you feel during meditation is not just subjective experience, but reflects measurable shifts in your body's biochemistry. This brings us to a practical question. How does one begin to tame the wild horse of the mind? The answer lies in simplicity itself. Each morning, before the demands of the day begin their clamor, dedicate just 5 minutes to a foundational practice. Find a comfortable position where you can sit with your spine relatively straight. Close your eyes or lower your gaze, and bring your full attention to the simple act of breathing. Notice the sensation of air entering through your nostrils. Feel the slight expansion of your chest and belly as the lungs fill. Observe the brief pause at the top of the inhalation. Then follow the exhalation as it releases, feeling your body settle slightly as the breath departs. This is not about breathing in any special way. You need not control or manipulate your breath. Simply observe it as it is, in this moment, exactly as you find it. Within seconds, your mind will wander. This is not failure. This is simply what minds do. When you notice the wandering, and you will notice it again and again, gently guide your attention back to the breath. No judgment, no frustration, just a patient return to the present moment. This simple practice, repeated daily, gradually strengthens your capacity for sustained attention. You are training the quality of presence that allows you to actually experience your life, rather than spending it lost in thought. Peace, contrary to popular belief, does not require the absence of difficulty. It does not demand special circumstances or ideal conditions. True serenity emerges when you develop the capacity to remain steady amid whatever arises. A calm mind facing turbulent circumstances is far more at peace than an agitated mind in comfortable surroundings. As one Buddhist teaching expresses it, peace is not found in a place without noise, trouble, or hard work. It is found in the midst of those things when the mind is calm. This first pillar, the art of serenity through present moment awareness, creates the foundation for everything that follows. Without the capacity to be here now, all other insights remain theoretical. But with even a modest development of mindfulness, the other pillars become accessible, their wisdom available for direct experience rather than mere intellectual understanding. The second pillar addresses a paradox at the heart of human experience. We pursue happiness through acquisition, yet research reveals that the happiest people are not those who possess the most, but those who desire the least. This is not mere philosophical speculation, but a pattern consistently confirmed across cultures and economic systems. The cycle of craving and temporary satisfaction, followed by new craving, represents one of the most persistent sources of human dissatisfaction. Buddhist psychology identifies this pattern with remarkable precision. Tanha, often translated as craving or thirst, describes the relentless pull of desire that keeps us perpetually reaching for the next thing. The mechanism operates with deceptive simplicity. We identify something we lack, convince ourselves that obtaining it will bring lasting satisfaction, pursue it with considerable energy, and then, upon acquisition, experience a brief spike in pleasure. But this satisfaction proves fleeting. The hedonic treadmill, as psychologists term it, quickly returns us to our baseline state of wanting. Within days or weeks, the new car no longer sparks joy. The promotion loses its shine. The relationship that promised eternal happiness settles into comfortable ordinariness. And the mind, ever resourceful, identifies new targets for its desiring, perhaps a newer car, a higher position, a different partner. The cycle repeats endlessly, each iteration promising fulfillment while delivering only temporary relief from the discomfort of wanting itself. Modern consumer culture represents the most sophisticated system ever devised for exploiting this psychological vulnerability. Billions of dollars flow annually into advertising designed specifically to generate dissatisfaction with what you already possess. Marketing creates artificial needs by presenting idealized versions of life that always require one more purchase to achieve. The implicit message, absorbed through thousands of exposures, suggests that you are incomplete without the featured product, inadequate without the displayed lifestyle, falling behind without constant acquisition. The fisherman's tale illuminates this trap. In this traditional story, a fisherman discovers a pearl of extraordinary beauty and value while diving in deep waters. Initially, his heart soars with the thought of the wealth this pearl represents, but soon, a different feeling takes hold. What if someone steals it? Where can he hide it safely? How can he protect this treasure? The pearl, rather than bringing joy, becomes a source of constant anxiety. His sleep suffers, his relationships strain. Every interaction carries the shadow of suspicion. One day, a wandering monk observes the fisherman's distress and listens to the story. Without a word, the monk takes the pearl and throws it back into the ocean. The fisherman's first reaction is horror, but within moments, a profound relief washes over him. The burden he had been carrying lifts, his sleep returns, his relationships heal. By losing the pearl, he gains his peace. This story points to a liberating truth. The problem was never about possessing or not possessing the pearl. The suffering arose from his clinging to it, his fear of losing it, his identification of his well-being with an external object. When that attachment dissolved, so did his suffering. The pearl itself was neutral. The mind's relationship to the pearl created either peace or turmoil. Harvard University's study of adult development, which has followed participants for over 80 years, provides robust empirical support for these insights. This research, one of the longest-running investigations into human happiness ever conducted, reveals that material wealth correlates poorly with life satisfaction beyond the point of basic security. The happiest individuals in the study, those reporting the highest life satisfaction and demonstrating the best health outcomes, were not the wealthiest. They were those who cultivated strong relationships and who maintained the capacity to appreciate what they already possessed, rather than constantly yearning for more. Additional research comparing experiential purchases with material acquisitions reveals another dimension of this truth. Multiple studies have demonstrated that people derive significantly more lasting satisfaction from experiences than from possessions. When researchers ask thousands of participants to report their happiness levels while consuming either experiential purchases, such as dining out or attending events, or material purchases, such as clothing or furniture, the experiential purchases consistently generated higher happiness scores. This effect held across all price points and demographic categories. The explanation centers on several factors. Experiences resist the comparative evaluations that plague material possessions. Your vacation cannot be directly compared to someone else's, in the same way your car can be judged against your neighbor's newer model. Experiences also tend to be shared, strengthening social bonds in ways that solo consumption cannot. And perhaps most significantly, experiences endure in memory. The perceived value of a material possession typically declines over time as it ages and newer versions emerge. But a meaningful experience often appreciates in memory, becoming richer as time passes and perspective deepens. True freedom, then, lies not in possessing more, but in needing less. Not in acquiring everything you want, but in wanting what you already have. This shift from acquisition to appreciation represents one of the most profound transformations available to human consciousness. It costs nothing, it requires no special circumstances, and it can begin in this very moment with a simple practice. Tonight, before sleep, ask yourself 2 questions. First, what am I chasing? Name the specific things you believe will finally make you happy once you obtain them. See them clearly. Second, what prevents me from enjoying what I already have? Notice how much of your attention flows toward what is missing rather than toward what is present. This simple exercise, repeated nightly, gradually shifts your relationship to desire. You begin to see craving for what it is, an endless hunger that no amount of feeding will satisfy. And in seeing it clearly, its power over you begins to diminish. The third pillar addresses a dimension of human experience so fundamental that its absence can shorten lifespan as reliably as smoking or alcoholism. Yet modern life increasingly fails to provide it. Strong, authentic connections with other human beings represent not merely a pleasant addition to life, but an essential requirement for flourishing. We are, at the deepest level, social creatures whose biology and psychology evolved for connection. Consider the bamboo and the lotus, 2 plants that appear quite different, yet share a common requirement. The bamboo stands tall and strong, its stems reaching toward the sky. The lotus blooms on the water's surface, its flowers opening to the sunday, yet both depend entirely on what lies beneath, unseen. The bamboo's extensive root system, spreading underground in complex networks, provides the stability and nourishment that allows its visible growth. The lotus's roots, anchored in the mud at the bottom of the pond, supply the nutrients that enable its beautiful flowering. Remove those roots, and both plants wither regardless of how much sun they receive or how perfect the weather becomes. Human beings function similarly. We need roots, connection to others, that provide the psychological and emotional nourishment required for growth. This is not weakness or dependency, but fundamental biology. The Harvard study of adult development, which we encountered earlier, made this its central finding across 8 decades of careful observation. The quality of our relationships proved to be the single most important predictor of long-term happiness and health. Not wealth, not career success, not fame, not even genetics. Relationships. The data speaks with remarkable clarity. People with strong social connections live longer, report higher life satisfaction, and demonstrate better physical health across numerous measures. Those ties protect against life's difficulties, buffering stress and providing resilience during challenges. The mechanisms involve both psychological and biological pathways. Socially connected individuals show reduced inflammation, stronger immune function, and better cardiovascular health. The simple presence of trusted others in your life creates measurable effects throughout your body's systems. Conversely, loneliness and social isolation create health risks comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes daily. The absence of meaningful connection triggers biological stress responses that, when chronic, damage health across multiple domains. This is not metaphor but measured reality. Your need for authentic connection is as genuine as your need for food or sleep. Neglect it, and your well-being suffers regardless of how successfully you manage other life domains. Buddhist philosophy has always recognized this interdependence as fundamental to existence. The concept of pratitya samutpada, often translated as dependent origination or interdependent arising, describes how nothing exists in isolation. Everything, including your sense of self, arises in relationship to everything else. You exist because countless other beings and conditions exist. Your parents, your teachers, the farmers who grew your food, the sun that enables photosynthesis, the earth that provides resources. All of existence is woven together in a vast web of mutual causation and support. This teaching points toward a profound ethical insight. When you recognize that your well-being depends on the well-being of others, that their flourishing enables your own, self-interest and compassion merge. Caring for others becomes caring for yourself. Harming others harms yourself. The artificial boundary between self and other begins to soften, revealing a deeper truth about the nature of existence itself. This understanding transforms how we approach relationships. Rather than viewing them as optional sources of pleasure or convenience, we recognize them as essential infrastructure for a good life. They require attention, cultivation, and care. You would not neglect your health for years and then wonder why you feel unwell. Similarly, relationships cannot be ignored without consequence. They need regular nourishment through genuine attention, honest communication, and shared presence. The practice here involves both quality and action. Begin by conducting an honest inventory of your current relationships. Who in your life truly has your back, as the Harvard researchers phrased it? With whom can you be genuinely yourself, without performance or pretense? These are the relationships that most profoundly impact your well-being. They may not be numerous. Research suggests that a small number of high-quality connections provides more benefit than a large network of superficial acquaintances. Having identified these key relationships, the second step involves deliberate cultivation. Today, right now, contact someone you care about but have not spoken with recently. Not a text message or brief email, but an actual conversation. Express your gratitude for their presence in your life. Ask how they are genuinely doing, then listen to the answer with full attention. This simple act, which requires perhaps 15 minutes, waters the roots that sustain you both. Quality of connection matters far more than quantity. One genuine conversation with someone who truly sees you provides more nourishment than hours of superficial socializing. This is because authentic connection involves mutual vulnerability and recognition. You show yourself as you actually are, not as you wish to appear. The other person responds with similar authenticity. In that exchange, something profound occurs. You feel known. You feel that your existence matters to someone else. This recognition satisfies a deep hunger that nothing else can touch. Modern technology, paradoxically, can both facilitate and impede genuine connection. Digital communication allows us to maintain contact across distances that would have severed relationships in earlier eras. But the same technology can create an illusion of connection while delivering only its shadow. Scrolling through social media feeds generates none of the nourishment of actual conversation. Collecting virtual friends provides none of the support of people who will show up during your difficulties. The challenge lies in using technology to serve real connection rather than substituting digital interaction for genuine presence. The fourth and final pillar invites us to embrace what most frightens us: change, impermanence, the flowing nature of all things. We construct our lives as if permanence were possible, as if we could freeze particular moments, relationships, or circumstances in place. We cling to youth, to health, to specific configurations of life that feel comfortable and safe. And when change inevitably arrives, as it always does, we resist with everything we have. This resistance, Buddhism teaches, creates more suffering than the change itself. The teaching of anicca, often translated as impermanence, stands as one of the three fundamental marks of existence in Buddhist philosophy. Everything conditioned, everything that arises from causes and conditions, exists in a state of constant flux. Your body changes moment by moment, cells dying and being born, tissues aging, systems adapting. Your mind flows through endless states, thoughts arising and dissolving, emotions coming and going, moods shifting like weather. Your relationships evolve, sometimes deepening, sometimes ending, always transforming. Nothing stays fixed. Nothing remains static. All is process, not thing. Consider the warrior and the cherry blossoms, another teaching story from the Buddhist tradition. A samurai, troubled by the impermanence of life and the approach of death, sought wisdom from a monk. The monk led him to a cherry tree in full bloom, its branches heavy with delicate pink flowers. Together they sat in silence, watching. After some time, a breeze arose. Cherry blossom petals began to fall, drifting through the air, landing softly on the ground. Some fell into a nearby stream where they floated away on the current. The warrior watched a single petal fall, expecting it to resist the wind, to cling to its branch, but it did not. It simply let go, dancing in the air, following the natural movement of the wind. No struggle, no resistance, just a graceful release. The monk said nothing. He did not need to. The warrior understood. This is the nature of change. Fighting it brings only suffering. Accepting it, flowing with it like the cherry blossom petal, allows for grace even in endings. Impermanence is not negative. This crucial point often gets lost in translation. The Buddhist teaching does not say that change is bad, but that clinging to what changes inevitably causes suffering. If you could freeze this moment forever, you would also freeze every difficulty, every pain, every limitation it contains. The very fact that moments pass means that no suffering is permanent. The difficult situation you face today will, without question, change. Perhaps not in the way you hope, but it will transform. This is guaranteed by the fundamental nature of reality. Psychological research on resilience confirms this insight through different language. Studies examining people's capacity to adapt to difficult circumstances consistently find that those who accept change with a flexible mindset demonstrate greater well-being than those who rigidly resist. The ability to adjust to new circumstances, to find meaning in transitions, to view change as opportunity rather than threat. These capacities predict everything from mental health to physical recovery after illness. The growth mindset described in contemporary psychology bears striking similarity to the Buddhist understanding of impermanence. When you recognize that your abilities, your understanding, even your basic qualities are not fixed but can develop through effort and experience, you become less threatened by challenges. Difficulties transform from personal failures into learning opportunities. Setbacks become temporary rather than permanent. This perspective, supported by decades of research in education and development, enables people to persist through obstacles that would defeat someone convinced their qualities are unchangeable. We resist change because we confuse impermanence with loss. When something ends or transforms, we experience it as something being taken away. But this perception misses half the truth. Yes, every ending involves loss, but every ending also creates space for something new. The child who clings to childhood never becomes an adult. The relationship that never evolves stagnates. The person who refuses to change ossifies. Life itself is change. To resist it is to resist being alive. The practice here involves direct observation rather than intellectual agreement. Find a comfortable place where you can sit quietly for a few minutes. Close your eyes and visualize a leaf resting on the surface of a gently flowing river. Watch it in your mind's eye. Notice how it moves with the current, not fighting, not struggling to stay in one place, simply carried by the natural flow of water. It navigates around rocks. It passes through calm pools and rushing rapids. It never resists. It never demands that the river stop flowing or change course. It simply goes where the water goes, floating peacefully on its surface. Now bring this image to your own life. What in your current experience are you treating like a rock in the river, something fixed and permanent, rather than like a leaf flowing with change? Perhaps a relationship that has shifted, perhaps a job situation that no longer fits, perhaps your own aging body or changing capacities. Can you observe these things with the same acceptance you felt watching the leaf? Can you release the demand that they remain as they were, and instead meet them as they are? This does not mean passive acceptance of harm or injustice. The leaf on the river, if it could think, might notice a waterfall ahead and guide itself toward calmer channels. Accepting impermanence does not prevent wise action, but it does prevent the additional suffering caused by demanding that reality be other than it is. You can work to change circumstances while simultaneously accepting the present moment. These are not contradictory but complementary. Impermanence, when truly understood, becomes not a problem but a promise. Because everything changes, transformation is always possible. The difficult phase you endure today will pass. The limitation you face now need not define your future. The mistake you made does not permanently mark you. Everything flows. Everything transforms. And you, despite what feels like a solid, unchanging self, are also process rather than thing. The person you were 5 years ago differs substantially from who you are now. The person you will become 5 years hence will differ again. This is not death but development, not loss but evolution. Peace arrives not when we finally make everything permanent and secure, which is impossible, but when we stop demanding permanence and security, when we loosen our grip and allow life to be what it is, a flowing river that carries us whether we resist or relax. The warrior watching cherry blossoms fall learned this. The petals did not suffer because they fell. They simply fell, and in falling, completed their purpose with grace. These 4 pillars, standing together, create a structure stable enough to support genuine well-being. The art of serenity through present moment awareness gives you a foundation in reality rather than fantasy. The illusion of desire reveals how the endless chase for more creates less satisfaction than appreciation of what is. The invisible roots of human connection remind you that flourishing requires nourishment from authentic relationship, and the practice of embracing impermanence frees you from the exhausting battle against change itself. But understanding these pillars intellectually accomplishes little. Knowledge of nutrition does not nourish you unless you actually eat. Knowledge of these principles will not transform your life unless you bring them into practice. And practice, unlike understanding, cannot be hurried. It unfolds through patient, consistent engagement over months and years. Begin modestly. Select one practice from what you have heard and commit to it for 30 days. Perhaps 5 minutes of morning meditation, anchoring your attention in breath. Perhaps nightly reflection on what you are chasing and what you already have. Perhaps reaching out weekly to someone whose connection matters to you. Perhaps sitting quietly once daily to observe the flow of change in your experience. Choose one. Practice it consistently. Notice what shifts. After 30 days, assess honestly. Has this practice changed anything? Has it created more peace, more gratitude, more connection, more acceptance? If so, continue it while adding a second practice. If not, try a different approach. The goal is not to perfectly execute these teachings, but to experiment with them as living possibilities rather than abstract concepts. Remember that these pillars support one another. Present moment awareness makes it easier to notice desires, movements, and choose differently. Recognizing the trap of endless wanting frees attention to appreciate the relationships you already have. Strong connections provide the security that allows you to accept impermanence with less fear. And embracing change reduces the clinging that creates desire in the first place. Each element strengthens the rest. Each practice makes the others more accessible. The path to a fulfilling life is not hidden or complex. It does not require special circumstances or rare abilities, but it does require something perhaps more challenging than either of those. It requires that you stop waiting for life to become perfect before you practice presence, that you relinquish the belief that one more acquisition will finally satisfy you, that you invest actual time and attention in relationships rather than hoping connection will somehow happen automatically, that you cease fighting against the fundamental nature of existence and instead learn to dance with change rather than against it. Peace is not a destination that you will someday reach. It is a way of traveling that you can choose in any moment. Happiness is not mysterious, though marketing and culture obscure its simple truth. And awakening does not require a dramatic event or perfect conditions. It unfolds through the gradual cultivation of these 4 pillars: one breath, one choice, one moment at a time. The question remains before you, not as philosophy but as immediate choice. Will you continue chasing the illusion that happiness waits somewhere else, in some future moment when conditions finally align? Or will you begin building it here, now, with the materials already in your hands? The breath you are taking in this moment, the relationships that already exist in your life, the capacity to appreciate what is rather than yearning for what is not, the flexibility to flow with change rather than demanding permanence. Nothing external prevents you from beginning. No circumstances must first improve. No preparation must be completed. You can close your eyes right now and take 5 conscious breaths, experiencing fully what it feels like to be alive in this body, in this moment. You can identify one thing you already possess and feel genuine gratitude for its presence. You can think of one person who matters to you and resolve to reach out today. You can notice one thing that is changing in your experience and practice accepting it rather than resisting. These 4 pillars have supported countless people across centuries and cultures in building lives characterized by genuine well-being. Not lives without difficulty, which is impossible given the nature of existence, but lives rooted in peace that persists even amid challenges. Not lives free of change, which would mean the end of growth, but lives that dance gracefully with transformation rather than drowning in resistance. The wisdom is here. The practices are available. The only question is whether you will take them up and make them your own through patient, persistent practice. Not perfect practice, which is impossible, but sincere practice, showing up again and again to meet life as it is, rather than as you wish it would be. May you find your way to present moment awareness, discovering the peace that exists beneath the surface turbulence of thought. May you see through desire's empty promises and rest in appreciation of what already is. May you cultivate and nourish the connections that make life worth living. And may you learn to flow with change rather than fighting the current, trusting that the river of life carries you exactly where you need to go. The path is clear, the practices are simple, and the journey begins wherever you are, in this moment, with whatever circumstances you face. Everything you need is already here. The question is whether you will recognize it, practice it, and allow these timeless truths to transform your daily experience from the inside out. If this exploration has touched something in you, consider sharing it with others who might benefit from these insights. Leave your reflections in the comments, as your experience might illuminate the path for someone else. And if you found value here, subscribing ensures you will continue receiving teachings on living with calm, wisdom, and purpose. Thank you for your attention. May your practice be fruitful, and may you discover the peace that was always waiting, right here, in this very moment.